Hello, boys and girls. I hope you're having a great Monday. We missed you this over the weekend, so we're ready to start a new week. All right. So today we're going to read a story called Whoosh, and we're going to talk about chronological order. All right. Good qualities. We're also going to be talking about this week about good qualities of a leader. Today our genre is biography, and biography tells us about a person's life and it's written by someone else. Okay, we're also going to be talking about text organization. Now, you remember beginning, middle, and end? We've talked about that before. Authors have different purposes for writing. Different purposes lead to different text organization or different ways of arranging information and details. Authors often use chronological order to write about things that happened in the past. Sometimes you'll see first, next, last, and then for clue words, but also other times authors will use dates to tell us about something's order. Today we're going to read a story called Whoosh. Okay? All right. So let's go ahead and get started. This is the page. Okay. Every day brought a challenge for young Lonnie Johnson. The challenge of finding space for his stuff. 6 Johnson kids were squeezed into their parents' small house in Mobile, Alabama. Lonnie would have loved a workshop of his own, but there just wasn't room. There was nowhere to keep all of his rockets kits. Boom shooters, rubber band guns, erector sets, go-karts, bolts and screws, and other square parts his dad let him bring from the shed, and various other things he hauled back from the junkyard. Lonnie loved building and creating. Ideas for inventions just kept on flowing. He learned how to make rockets from scratch. Kids at school gathered to watch Lonnie launch them. And he learned how to make rocket fuel. When it caught fire in the kitchen, Lonnie's mom didn't make him stop. She just sent him to work outside. Lonnie wanted to spend life designing things, building things, and getting them to work. He wanted to be an engineer. However, Lonnie took an exam that said he would not make a good one. His dream had been challenged. Lonnie was discouraged, but he knew that whoever had graded his test hadn't met Linux. Ooh, I wonder who Linux is. Inspired by a TV show, Lonnie had built his own robot. He made it out of scrap metal and he named it Linux. Compressed air cylinders and valves allowed Linux body to turn and his arms to move. The switches came from an old broken jukebox. Lonnie used a tape recorder to program Linux. And as a bonus, the reels look like eyes. Lonnie wanted to enter his creation in a science fair, but he couldn't get the transmitter to work. Without it, Lonnie couldn't send commands to Linux. Science fairs came and went. Lonnie missed one and then another, until he got an idea. Now Lonnie may or may not have asked before he borrowed his little sister's walkie-talkie. Oh, he must be using her walkie-talkie to do something. But he fixed the transmission issue. His school team took freshly finished Linux to a 1968 science fair at the University of Alabama, where only 5 years earlier African American students hadn't even been allowed. How terrible. Having to compete in a place that wasn't very welcoming, now that was a challenge, with a capital C. Against other schools from all over the state, Lonnie's team won first place. That's awesome. I love this part of the book. It makes me laugh. Soon, Lonnie left home to go to college at Tuskegee Institute, where he stood out as a self-confident and insightful, creative thinker. He stood out as a student who asked the right questions, precisely delivered problems, and formulated solutions. He had stood out as the guy who built his own booming sound system out of cast-off electronics. It even had lights that flashed in sync with the beat. Lonnie sometimes studied right in the middle of his own parties. The extra studying paid off. He became an engineer after graduation, and that took him beyond Alabama, way beyond. So let's think about what type of student Lonnie was in college. He looked like he was a fun student because he made music boxes and loved to have dance and have parties. But he was also a good student because sometimes even studied during a party. I don't know how you could study during a party, but so this shows that Lonnie's character is hardworking, but he also likes to have fun. All right, let's go to the next page. When NASA was sending an orbiter and probe called Galileo to Jupiter, the space agency needed to ensure a constant supply of power to the orbiter's computer memory. The engineer who had to figure that out how to do that was Lonnie. His challenge was to come up with lightweight backup systems able to keep essential functions going in case the main power was lost. It wasn't easy. It wasn't obvious, but Lonnie found a solution. Some of NASA's jet propulsion laboratory doubled his idea would work. Lonnie convinced them it would. He was right. As it photographed Jupiter and its moons, Galileo was supported by the power package that Lonnie designed. That's a tongue twister. Much of what we know about Jupiter could have been at risk in a power failure, if not for Lonnie. Ideas for the problems to solve just kept on flowing. They flowed whether Lonnie was working with hundreds of people at NASA or up late tinkering on his own inventions in, finally, his own workshop. Lonnie knew that the world's millions of refrigerators and air conditioners needed a new cooling system. One that didn't use R12, a chemical that was bad for the environment. He had an idea for using water and air pressure instead. To test this idea, he made a pump and nozzle connected to the bathroom faucet. Turned on the faucet, turned on the pump, and then what do you think's going to happen? Whoosh! That's how they got our title of our story, the name. The stream that blasted across the bathroom was so powerful it created a curtain swirling breeze. It also gave Lonnie an idea for yet another invention. This, he thought, would make a great water gun. First, he had to find or make the parts, including a pump small enough for a child to handle. Then he had to glue the parts together into a prototype, an early version with room for improvement. So how does Lonnie's idea for a cooling system give him an idea for a water gun? Think about that. Finally, Lonnie tested the strange-looking squirt gun at a picnic. Does it really work? A man asked. Sure, said Lonnie. Want to see? Lonnie worked the pump, which squeezed air into a chamber. When he pulled the trigger, the air escaped, forcing water out with a whoosh, just like a water gun. For a water battle to be a fair fight, he couldn't be just one Lonnie water gun. He needed help making more. So he went to a toy company after toy company after toy company. And everybody kept saying, no, no, no. The word no flowed again and again, but finally one company said yes, it planned to make his water gun. Lonnie also had other projects, a water-propelled toy airplane, 2 kinds of engines, and his cooling system. He found investors to provide the money for turning his ideas into products people could buy. He made a leap of faith, quit his job, and devoted himself to full-time inventing. But soon each plan fell apart, even the one for the water gun. These things sometimes happen, but when they happen one after the other to the same person, well, that's just some pretty bad luck. Lonnie didn't have a job. He didn't have money he'd been counting on, and he and his family had to move out of their home and into a little apartment. He was angry and scared, But Lonnie had dealt with challenges all his life. He knew a lot about solving problems, and he still believed in his inventions, especially the water gun. Lonnie went looking for another toy company. In 1989, he found a toy maker who was interested in seeing the water gun if Lonnie ever happened to be in Philadelphia. But don't make a special trip, the guy said. Lonnie made a special trip. In his wife's suitcase, he carried a new prototype. He unpacked it, filled the tank with water, pumped the gun until the air pressure was good and high, and this is a funny picture next. Whoosh! Look what happened. He got all the men wet at the meeting. They all have their ties on. Kids everywhere agree with that. Wow. Lonnie's water gun is called the Super Soaker because it became a smash hit. Do you have one of those at your house? I think we do. In one time, there was super soakers in backyards and on beaches and parks and playgrounds. Each sale of the super soaker put a little money into Lonnie's pocket. All those hours, all those years that Lonnie spent in his workshop had paid off big time. Now he could afford to do just about anything he wanted to. So what did Lonnie do? He got a bigger workshop, which is where you'll find him today. Because facing challenges, solving problems, and building things are what Lonnie Johnson loves to do. And his ideas just keep flowing. Okay, so today our objective is you're going to answer a question about the text using the race strategy because knowing chronological order helps us understand the events in the order that they happened. Okay, so we're going to use the race strategy. All right, so let's look at the first one. Okay, what did Lonnie first start making from scratch? Okay, so let's look at this picture. I'm grabbing my book real quick because this is a little small and you'll be able to see it probably better on your computer. So the page says, I'm getting my book so we can see it. He learned how to make rockets from scratch. So the question says, what did Lonnie first start making from scratch? So I'm going to circle this word. I got to make that a little smaller. Okay, I'm going to circle that word and underline this part. Okay, and then I'm going to type in my answer. I'm going to say, Lonnie made rockets from scratch. Okay? All right, so let's go to the next one. Okay, the next one says, what did Lonnie become after he graduated college? So I'm going to circle the question word. What? I'm going to underline the important words. Did Lonnie become after he graduated college? And then I'm going to put my text in there and I'm going to type it. It doesn't have to be perfect, just so I know your answer. And it's going to say, Lonnie became an engineer after college. I'm almost done. Okay. All right, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, now it's your turn. So you're going to see this page right here with the plane on it. Okay, and on the plane it says, let me turn to my page so I can read it for you. It says, in 1989, he found a toy maker who was interested in seeing the water gun if Lonnie ever happened to be in Philadelphia. But don't make a special trip, the guy said. Lonnie made a special trip. So then you have to answer this question. What happened to Lonnie in 1989? Some of you might see a slide like this, and some of you might have to write it out yourself. If you write it out yourself, make sure you circle the question word, underline the important parts, and then answer the question. That'll be on your Pear Deck today. So let's go back into conclusion. How does the author use chronological order to tell about Lonnie's inventions? By telling how to make a water gun. B, by showing how you can come up with inventions. C, by telling what makes Lonnie the best inventor in the world. Or D, by showing you all of his cool inventions throughout his life. So the best answer would be D. And how does chronological order help the reader? It helps the reader by knowing what comes at the beginning, middle, and end, by using those words like, first, next, last, or by using dates. Okay, so I hope you have a great day. Thank you for listening to me, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye.